Welcome back, everyone. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're having a great day in the Lord, and I hope you're blessed by these devotionals. Today we're going to talk about helping each other when things are tough. Our scripture is from Galatians 6:2. Carry one another's burdens. In this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. Now, in verse 1, Paul had just talked about restoring a fellow Christian who had been overtaken by wrongdoing, the idea being someone who was staggering under a heavy load. So here Paul says we are to carry one another's burdens. The focus isn't on expecting others to help us. That is self-focused and always leads to pride and frustration. No, this is directing us to be focused on others rather than self. It seems to be a simple command to obey. Look for a brother or sister with a burden and help them with it. It's not complicated. It doesn't require a church program or ministry or infrastructure to do it. Just look for someone who needs help and then help them out. The assumption behind this is that we all have burdens to bear, and God does not mean for us to carry them alone. The second half of this verse says that by bearing one another's burdens, we will fulfill the law of Christ. In John 13:34 and 35, Jesus told his disciples, I give you a new command. Love one another. Just as I have loved you, you are also to love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. In this letter to the Galatians, Paul is battling legalists there who insisted that Christians follow the Mosaic law. Paul seems to be telling them, you want to fulfill the law? Here is your law to fulfill. Bear one another's burdens and fulfill the law of Christ. I think Paul is telling them rather than imposing the Mosaic law as a burden on others, they should lift those burdens and fulfill the law of Christ. There will be times when Christians in need should go to their church for financial assistance. This is biblical. And most churches can meet a short-term need. Few are prepared for a major need such as catastrophic medical bills. The churches just don't have the resources. The reason these needs go unmet is because we, God's people, are mismanaging what God has provided for us, spending it on our own selfish desires. There is no shortage of funds in God's economy. There is a shortage of vision amongst his people. The prophet Haggai had harsh words for Israel when it was time to rebuild God's temple. In Haggai 1:4-7, he says, Is it time for you yourselves to live in your paneled houses, while this house, that is God's temple, lies in ruins? Now the Lord of armies says this, think carefully about your ways. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough to be satisfied. You drink, but never have enough to be happy. You put on clothes, but never have enough to get warm. The wage earner puts his wages into a bag with a hole in it. The Lord of armies says this, think carefully about your ways. I think this is a challenge to the American church today. Notice that twice in this passage, God says, think carefully about your ways. Whenever something is repeated in Scripture, you should always take notice, because while every word of Scripture is important, when it's repeated, it is really important. And isn't it something that by putting ourselves first, we find that we never have enough? But by putting others first and sacrificially obeying God's commands, he will supernaturally multiply what we have been given so that we have an abundance. It is as if the story of the 5 loaves and 2 fishes is coming true again and again. And we should not be surprised by this. God tells us that he will respond to faith and obedience in this manner. Today, every day, you should be praying that God would show you how to help someone in need, how to lift someone's burden, either with your church or individually. Well, until next time, may God bless you supernaturally as you devote what he has given to you to his service and to helping those who are in need. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.